Welcome to this live TEDx workshop. In this video, I'm going to practice my next TEDx talk, and then I'm going to share some of my best tips for how you can become a TEDx speaker as well. My name is Markus Seppälä, and my first TEDx talk was in 2018 at TEDx J&J Zuchwil, which is a part of the Johnson & Johnson series of TEDx talks. In 2019, I organized and hosted my own TEDx event also at J&J, and the next one that I'm going to do is going to be TEDx Freiburg actually next month. So that's why I want to do a live practice of that talk, because I believe that practicing your talks and your presentations in different formats is really, really helpful. The topic of my talk is free to fail, and on the actual stage, I will be handholding a microphone. So I'm going to grab my microphone here, and let's get started with my next TEDx talk, free to fail, live practice right here on YouTube. You should talk more about your biggest failures. I'll start. At the beginning of my career, I was recruited into a prestigious management consulting firm. And I was fairly fresh out of university, but I came in and I said, I want to have my own clients and I want to manage my own projects. And before long, I did get my first client. It was a Silicon Valley high-tech company, and it was exactly the kind of company that I wanted to be seen with. My technical area of expertise is executive compensation. And this client, they did have an executive compensation policy, but the policy was so bad, we used to use it as an example on how not to design an executive compensation policy. It was my task to bring it into alignment with best practice. I poured my heart and soul into this finely crafted proposal and sent it off to the client. And just 2 days later, nothing happened. A week, nothing. 2 weeks, no response. The client did not answer my emails, and they did not pick up the phone when I called. Soon it was clear that I had lost the client, I had lost the project, I had failed. Around this time, my boss comes and talks to me, and he says, Markus, I think it's time for us to have a little chat about your future in our company. And he sits me down and he says, I think you have the potential of advancing faster in your career than your peers. What? I had just failed spectacularly, and he's praising my career prospects. But he explained it to me and he said, yes, you lost your first and only client. But out of everybody at your level in the organization, you're the only one who even has your own clients to manage and to lose. You had insisted on it. And you had shown me that you were willing to risk failure in order to be successful. And in my team, you are free to fail. Then he explained his philosophy. And he said that we have to get rid of this culture of failure avoidance. We have to take risks without the fear of failure. So in my team, failure is not only tolerated, it's not only encouraged, it is required. We have to take risks. And what that means is that every now and again, we're going to fail, but the key is to fail quickly and not waste time. Instead, we should move over to those bigger and better projects that are actually going to move the needle for our clients. That conversation was already more than 10 years ago. And ever since that conversation, I've been practicing what he taught me. That means that I've failed a lot since then. About 5 years ago, I started doing stand-up comedy. And that has failure written all over it. And I'll give you a couple of examples. But let me first share how I got into comedy. I was at a conference, an executive compensation conference in Brussels, Belgium. And I did a presentation where I contrasted different ways of disclosing the forward-looking earnings per share performance targets, which we used as performance measures in our executive share-based long-term incentive plan. Riveting stuff now. I know. Ha, funny topic. But I had jokes in my presentation. And in fact, I was the only person there who had jokes in their presentation. So a lady from the audience came up to me afterwards and she said, "Markus, that was funny. You should do comedy." I don't understand sarcasm, so I took her seriously. But here's the thing with doing comedy. You have to be willing to fail. So what she was saying to me was really, "Markus, you look like somebody who's intimately familiar with failing." I didn't get into comedy to fail. I got into comedy to meet women. And that's where the failure really started. But what specifically does failure on the stand-up comedy stage look like? A couple of years ago, I got myself on stage at the Comedy Store in London. Now, the Comedy Store is a legendary comedy club. It's underground, there's 400 seats, and the place was packed. It's my turn to speak. I give them my opening joke. The delivery is perfect, and the crowd goes wild with booing. They booed me. 400 people booed me. Even the staff joined in. After a while, the host grabs a hammer and he bangs a big gong on stage. And as the gong rings, that's the end of my performance. I lasted 18 seconds. It's not the first time I've been booed after an 18-second performance. But there is a silver lining to this. Previously, I thought that the worst thing that can happen on the stand-up comedy stage is that you tell a joke and nobody laughs. That is not the worst thing. Getting booed is a lot worse. And another lesson is that now I know that regardless of how badly I do in the future, it's never going to be worse than being booed by 400 people. Even if everybody at the venue on May 7th boo me at the same time, it's not going to be worse because there will only be 300 people there. So here's my simple recommendation. Start talking about your failures. On a very basic human level, failures make for good stories. And we all want to hear stories, both in our personal life, but also in corporate storytelling. In fact, let's start with the corporate aspect. If you show your colleagues and your employees that in your company, we actually do tolerate failure, they are going to be encouraged to take those risks, which will lead to those breakthrough innovations for your company. On the personal level, there are two benefits that I've identified. One is that when you start opening up to other people about your own failures, they will do the same. And you will create amazing connections with other people when you compare your stories of failure. But the second aspect for you personally is that when you talk about your failures, you can actually come across as more competent and more confident. Because when you tell a story about your failure, they are not going to see you as a failure. Rather, they're going to see somebody who learned something, somebody who was willing to take the risk. So go out there and talk about your failures, because it's only when we're free to fail that we're truly free to succeed. And that's the end of my next TEDx talk. That's the end of that practice. I'm going to put the microphone back in the stand, and then we'll talk about some tips for your next TEDx event. There we go. Bring the microphone back. Let's see if that looks about right. Maybe a little bit higher. There we go. Hey, if you have any questions about becoming a TEDx speaker or how it can help you, definitely let me know. And the one thing I'm going to quickly do here is check my slides if everything, no, it's all good. It's all good. All right. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. If you have any questions about that talk, or if you have any questions about becoming a TEDx speaker in general. So let me share 3 tips with you about how you can become a TEDx speaker yourself. Firstly, though, let's bring so this is the next talk that I'm going to be doing. If you're in Freiburg, Germany, definitely come and join us. And if you find that you want my help in preparing your TEDx talk, or indeed organizing your own TEDx event, that's going to be one of the tips, by the way, definitely reach out to me. Now, my name is Markus Seppälä. You can reach me at contact@markuspresents.com. So, the 3 tips. Number 1 is that if you want to be a TEDx speaker, the absolutely most important thing that you need to have is an idea, specifically an idea worth spreading. That is the motto of TED and TEDx. You need to have an idea worth spreading. And that is not only a tagline, that is such an important selection criteria as well. I mentioned before that I organized this TEDx event here in 2019, and I was the project manager and the host, but I was also involved in selecting the speakers. And obviously, I'm not going to, because it was a corporate event, I cannot share what the actual topics were, but I can give you some guidance. Those individuals who came in with a very simple idea, like mine, for example, you should talk more about failures. It was much easier to engage with those proposals. Those individuals who came in with an idea like, oh, I've lived such an interesting life and I would like to tell you about it. That is not an idea worth spreading. There is nothing specific there. So if you do approach a TEDx organizer, that one idea worth spreading, which you can express in one sentence, that is going to be the absolute most important thing. The next tip, so that was tip number 1. The next tip is going to be about your approach to actually finding these TEDx events on where you can join. And different TEDx organizers, they have their own procedures for how they pick their speakers. Things that help is, of course, if you have an online presence that identifies you as somebody who has something interesting to say, and they might reach out to you, but a much more proactive approach is, of course, to reach out to them. So I want to give you a couple of examples on how you can do it. Some TEDx organizers do not have an application process, but rather they will find you, but a lot of them do. So the second tip is to really make sure that you follow the social media presence of those TEDx events that you are interested in. So, for example, they could be events that are nearby or that are in a location where you have some kind of affinity. Just follow their LinkedIn, their Facebook, their Instagram, whatever they're actually using. But let's go a little bit more proactive, because I'm going to switch over to a... let's do it like this. Let's bring back our slides, and then let's not do that. Let's do it like one moment. Okay, I'm going to bring back our slides. There we go. Let's do it like that. Because I have prepared an example. The example that I want to look at here is, I had prepared a very good example. It is currently not. Listen, this is a live stream, but I will make this work. Hang on. Okay, there we go. And then, okay, it is going to work. Okay. Sorry for that. Let's switch over to that web browser. So you can see that this is the website of TEDx Zurich. I'm based here in Switzerland, and Zurich is the biggest city in Switzerland. So TEDx Zurich might be an event where I would like to talk, for example. So let's have a look at the TEDx Zurich website, which you can see there. Maybe we can even put it, let's put it full screen like that. No, it's actually a bad idea. Let's put it like that. So if I scroll down on the website here, there is an opportunity for you to apply as a speaker, and it's actually here in the menu. So if I click on the menu and then I click on nominate, this is now going to take us to the TEDx Zurich nomination page. And maybe let's put that there. So, and at the bottom here, you can see that there are 2 buttons. There is the nominate a speaker, and then there is the apply as a speaker. So TEDx Zurich is one of those places where you are actually, I covered up the button with my video there. But TEDx Zurich is one of those places where you are allowed to apply to be a speaker. And do make sure to read all the requirements and exactly how the process works. The next example that I have here is going to be another event. Next month, I am going to go to Chicago to do stand-up comedy and ride some roller coasters. So I figured, let's check TEDx Chicago. Do they have something there? So this is the website of TEDx Chicago. And if I scroll down to the middle of the page here, there's also a submit a speaker idea where you can submit a speaker candidate with that button right there. So I think this is really important to understand that you can become a TEDx speaker simply by applying to be one. And this is an opportunity that is in principle open to everybody. So that was tip number 2, is to engage directly with the organizers. The third tip that, and of course, put your questions in the chat if you want, if you have any during the presentation here. But the next tip is going to be actually the easiest way to become a TEDx speaker. And I'm happy you stayed around to this part of the video, because this is the secret magic, what do you call it? The cheat code. This is the cheat code on how you become a TEDx speaker. And that is actually to organize your own TEDx event at your company. So TEDx events can be open to the public, but they can also be corporate events, and they have a special license. It's called the TEDx Business License. And if you work for a company where you have enough people to organize a TEDx event, definitely apply for that TEDx Business License and then put together your own TEDx event. It's not rocket science, and there is a lot of good guidance on TEDx among the official TEDx guides as well. If you want my specific help, I actually made a video about it. I made a video about how you can plan a TEDx event at your company, and it is linked in the video description below this live stream. And basically, it involves things like coming up with the business idea or the business rationale. And the cool thing about TEDx is that it's such a powerful brand already. So if your employees are presented with the idea by you to do a TEDx talk, that's going to be a super attractive proposition for them. And the company will also benefit from bringing something exciting to the employees, like a TEDx event. So definitely organize your own TEDx event. And if you want my help in doing so, I'll be very happy to help you. Just write to me at contact@markuspresents.com. Whether that's the planning phase, the speaker selection phase. Oh, by the way, I also have a video on my channel about the process of selecting the speakers. Please reach out. I'll be very happy to do it. Or if you want me to do your TEDx talk or host your event, very happy to help. Listen, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm very happy that you're here watching this live, talking about TEDx events. And I'm happy that you were here to listen to me practice my TEDx talk. It's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm pretty happy with the shape that it is in. One thing that I would also like to mention is that, of course, in a TEDx talk, you can use visual aids. I chose to not use any visual aids because I think my type of talk doesn't really need them. If you do choose to use visual aids, use them very sparingly. You are not going to be allowed to have traditional PowerPoint slides with a lot of text. That just doesn't fly on the TEDx stage. Ultimately, if you're going to be using any visuals, they better be just a photo or a little video clip or a simple drawing. No traditional corporate style PowerPoint presentations in a TEDx talk. And in any case, people are not there to look at your slides. They're there to hear your idea worth spreading. Listen, thank you very much for being here, and check out the links in the video description below if you want to contact me and work with me on your next TEDx talk, whether it's your individual talk or if it is your corporate event. And if you would like to get my feedback on your presentation, TEDx or otherwise, please reach out. That is markuspresents.com/contact. The links are in the description. Thank you very much for being here. And I gotta go to a comedy show. I am doing a German comedy show. German is my fourth language. It's going to be grammatically incorrect, but I'm looking forward to doing this comedy show in German. So thank you for watching, and see you. Now I remember what I forgot, because the next video that you should watch is on the screen right now. So click the video. This is going to be the video about how to run a corporate TEDx event. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.